Hey there, Cheesemeisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I am Jeff, and we have 12 vacancies, 12 cabins, 12 vacancies. And joining me on the other end of the internet, my host.
I'm Leslie, and I'm not even going to swat at that fly. I hope they are
Mm-hmm.
watching, and they'll see. They'll see and they'll say why she wouldn't even harm a fly.
You got to do the.
I thought about it.
I bet you it doesn't even matter. You can't. Like, you can do it or you can not do it. It's still not going to be as good as how he did it. Like, he's just so fucking creepy.
Wow. I
Shot,
know.
It's pretty masterful. This week, Cheesemeisters, we are talking about Psycho, the 1961 Alfred Hitchcock directed, well thought out, theft gone wrong masterpiece starring Anthony Perkins, Vera Miles, John Gavin, Martin Balsam, and Janet Leigh. Oh, and Sam fucking Wainwright. Hee haw. Frank Albertson.
Yeehaw.
We are watching this in conjunction with season 3, episode 22. The child is father to the man, which is a really weird sentence structure. Those words in that order, they make it hard for me. Our spelling connections this week are many. Janet Leigh did episodes of The Love Boat and Fantasy Island. We've got Martin Balsam back again, who is in Hotel and previously viewed in All the President's Men.
Mm.
And then Lorene Tuttle, who played the wife of the sheriff. She was in Love Boat, Dynasty, Heart to Heart, Fantasy Island, and Charlie's Angels. Like,
Damn.
she just ran the gamut from the late 70s to the early 80s. Just guest starring left and right.
Good for her.
So, yeah, props to Lorene Tuttle is what I say. Okay. So, Psycho.
Ever heard of
I
it?
guess yeah, exactly. I guess the place to start here is why I wanted to watch this episode in conjunction with the episode that we watched, The Child is Father to the Man. But first, I need to say, spoiler alert, motherfuckers, this movie is 65 years old almost. But if you haven't seen Psycho, stop it, because I don't want to spoil it for you. And we're going to spoil it for you because you can't talk about this movie and not spoil it.
No.
So, here's why I wanted to talk about it. Because Dylan spends the whole episode having a conversation with himself out loud. He has got a split personality in this episode. First, it's him and BH him, and then it's him and little kid BH him. And so I thought it'd be interesting to watch something that is thematically has that going on in it. But I couldn't say, hey, Leslie, here's why I want to watch Psycho. Because it ruins the whole fucking movie. And
yeah,
just didn't want to do that.
because I've never seen, or I had never seen it.
You had never seen it. So what did you know about Psycho? And second, did you like it?
I knew the thing.
Okay.
I knew someone got killed in a shower.
Okay.
I knew the name Norman Bates.
Okay.
And Bates Motel. And
okay.
That was it. And I really liked the movie.
Oh,
I think
awesome.
Partly because, I mean, I really liked it, but I really love that I figured it out.
Yeah, that's fun. It's I think that this movie would have been impossible to figure out in 1961.
Agreed.
You know? But I think that now we've seen so many twists, we've seen so many psychological thrillers. We know way more about split personalities and these kinds of things, and that we just come into this movie with more of that, so you could see it a little easier. But in 1961, I don't think it was possible. I think if someone didn't know where this movie was going, they would be like, "What the what?"
I I definitely agree, but I don't think they give anything away too soon. Like, because
Mm-hmm.
when I called it, they hadn't said that she was dead.
Yeah,
They,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, the cop and his wife were just kind of like, Mrs. Bates, you said there's an old woman there? Huh.
And
Like
you
that's,
immediately got to it's Norman dressing up as his mom and killing people. Spoilers, everybody.
yeah. Yeah, Walter said, because he wanted to clock the timing of it, it was like at an hour 10.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a feeling that she was dead. The fact that we
Okay.
hadn't seen her and had only heard her. And
Yeah.
then by their reaction, it suddenly all came to me, and I was like feeling the most brilliant I've ever felt in my life.
Nice.
And to the point where when it was revealed, I screamed with the sister, and then I screamed again when he came in. It was
Yeah,
great.
that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
so let's start with. There's a lot of things to talk about with this movie that are pretty amazing. Um, but the one of the things that really interests me about it is like how far this movie goes to keep you from knowing what's happening and
Mm-hmm.
how many twists and turns there are in this movie and how Hitchcock was concerned when the movie came out about people having the movie ruined for them by like finding out what happened. So there would be like signs posted outside the theater that was like, please don't tell anyone what you see in the theater
Yeah.
today, but also actively discouraging people from going into the movie late because he feared like if you walk in the middle looking for Janet Leigh and she's already dead, you just spend the rest of the movie confused. You know,
True. I don't know what psycho would enter a movie halfway through, but that's
so
get
that's
your
what
kicks where
people
you
used to
can.
do.
What?
No, people used to do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they would run like those, triple features or whatever. And you would just like you buy your ticket and you just go in, you sit down, you watch the movie. And then, at the end, if it starts again, you watch the first half. Like this is very common movie going in the early 20th century. People just did that. Um, so he was like, please don't.
I respect that so much.
I do too. The how like I was reading this interview and it's in this book. If you've never heard of this, um,
Oh.
Hitchcock Truffaut, it's a whole interview where Francois Truffaut interviewed Alfred Hitchcock about like every movie, and so there's a whole conversation in here about Psycho, which is really interesting. Um, but Hitchcock talked about how he was more than directing the movie; he was directing the audience,
Mm.
and with the camera, but also with the story and the advertising for it and the the pacing of it. Like it's such a like when you get to the end of the movie and you're like, oh, that's what happened. I think you can forget all of the things he does to make you think you're watching a different movie,
Hmm.
right? Like in the did you watch the trailer that I sent you? Like I sent you like
I
a
did. That was amusing as hell. Like
super.
I
Yeah, it's
wasn't
funny.
I wasn't expecting it to be as funny as it was, because he would be like, oh, and up here this murder happens and he falls down the stairs and he probably broke his I'm doing a bad impression, forgive me.
And
But
yet
like
but he does
broke
like
his
this
neck.
little twisty.
But then he would have these moments of like, and up here, well, moving on.
Yeah,
And it's like, what is happening?
yeah. And, like he's making you think that the even in that trailer where it's like he's funny about it, but he's like, this is far too gruesome. Like he's in the trailer, he's making it seem like this movie is a super violent slasher movie where horrible things happen and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And then the movie starts and you think you're watching a movie about an illicit affair because they're having sex. He's divorced. It has to be in secret because he has alimony payments. It's a whole thing. Um, and then Sam Wainwright comes in and has $40,000 in cash, and she steals it. And now you think it's a movie about a theft.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, she sees her boss walk in front of her, and you think, oh no, she's going to get caught. And you think this movie about a woman who stole money and is on the run. And then there's a cop that wakes her up and follows her. And she changes out her car with him watching, which makes the whole getting rid of the car thing. That didn't help you. It's a bad plan. And so like she's on the run and she pulls up to this hotel, and even through the whole conversation with Norman, where he's like giving their over the sandwiches and milk, like he's sharing these things, and you think, wow, this poor guy, this oppressed, henpecked, like can't escape, this situation. He's clearly not super healthy. There's this weird thing with his mom. But like the whole thing keeps bringing you back to her and the fact that she has this money and she's stolen it and she's hiding it in her room. And then she's like, I think I'm going to get myself out of this jam I'm in. And then he takes down the painting, and he's a peeping Tom.
Oh, yeah.
And oh no, is this a movie about voyeurism? Is that what this is? Like
Voyeurism is just a red herring.
It really is. And then she's brutally murdered, kind of out of nowhere, and you're like, holy shit, the star of the movie is dead.
Yeah.
This isn't any of the things I thought that it was. And because it's with the dress and the wig and the whole, you think it's Norman's mother who killed, because you've heard her screaming at him about his, looking at women and he's a naughty, naughty boy and whatever she says.
Yeah.
And he is peeping on her. So you think you've got this, okay, now there's this trapped guy who's clearly kind of broken, covering up for his mother who just killed this woman. And now you have a new protagonist. Like you thought it was a movie about this lady. And then you're like, oh, it's a movie about this guy and this horrible mom and what's he going to do? And then the cop and the sister. And now it's a movie about trying to solve a murder, right? There's a boy in danger. He's covering up for his mom. And then she's dead. So now what the fuck is going on? What is this movie? The mom is dead. And they all go, oh, well, if that's his mom up at the house, who's buried in the cemetery, which is the wrong question. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but we're still going down that road, and we're still thinking this might be about the money. Like maybe Marion was killed for the money. Or then it's like maybe Norman killed her for the money. And then in the end, it turns out it's this whole crazy, it's him, the whole thing. And he split personality. Like you don't for a second know what movie you're watching until it's over.
Yep.
And it's amazing.
It is really great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many twists and turns.
That's the thing. Like there, Hitchcock made a lot of movies where there were surprise twists at the end. Like that happened. But to like put that twist in the middle, kill the star of the movie, unseat the audience, and they don't even know what's happening. Like they think they're rooting for this girl, did this guy, then this happened, and that what? And I think
You
go
know,
ahead.
well, I was just thinking because I've been thinking a lot. We've watched other old movies, and yet for some
Mhm.
reason, this one sticks out to me mostly on what was known at the time, what was done at the time, movie wise, what was allowed.
Mm.
Um, because this one is edgy, and I was rewatching the scene where she's talking to Norman Bates over the weird. It must be chicken salad and sandwiches because he just brings in like a stack of bread. It basically brings in the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving minus popcorn. Um, Toast. Here you go. But
Yeah, yeah.
you know, from a 2024 lens, I was set off 2025. Wow, I'm still not used to it.
Mhm.
I picked up on red flags immediately with him. I think it was when he
Mhm.
said, I like stuffing things. I went, nope. Like, Walter was laughing at my reactions this whole time. And granted, again, I'm watching this knowing Norman Bates is going to be no good somehow, or something's going to be
Mhm.
off about him. And also,
Okay.
we're hypersensitive now to things that weren't seen as red flags back then.
Hmm. Yeah. So wait. So you're saying across the board, taxidermists, you're that's a red line for you. You're not dating a
No.
taxidermist.
I
Okay.
don't have a problem with taxidermy. It's how he said it. And I think there were other
Sure.
things. He was so good at keeping this like lighthearted demeanor and and then and then suddenly it would only be his mouth moving. Nothing else on his face would
Mm.
move. But then he'd be back to this, just
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine here. We all live in cages of our own making.
Right. Hmm. Yeah. That whole scene with all of that, um, a boy's best friend is his mother, and
Oh,
like all
that
of that.
that
The thing I found so interesting when Norman talks to people in that scene and in the scene with Arbogast when he's asking him all the questions and the cop, or like, when they're trying to when and him and Sam, like he's constantly um trying out an answer, getting negative reinforcement for that answer, and then saying exactly the opposite thing. And
yeah.
it works for the people he's talking to. Like it for Marion, it doesn't, like she notices it, like that he's like, oh, he just changed, he just said the other thing. Um but she's not discomfited by him. She doesn't think she's going to be murdered in the shower in 2 minutes. You know, Arbogast feels like something's up, but he's smelling the wrong thing. He's like, there's something off here, and it's probably this boy's mother did it, and he's scared of her, and he wants
Hmm.
to escape, and whatever. But it's the same thing where he'll like, oh, we don't uh like when Sam and her sister are checking in, and he's like, do you keep a book? No, I don't keep a book. Oh, well, I mean, of course we have a book. And oh, is that all it costs? That's what it costs. um wow, this is the first hotel I've ever been at that doesn't have a deposit if I don't whatever. And he's like, oh, then $10. Like
Yeah.
constantly, just like, oh, like every time he finds himself going slightly down the wrong street. He comes back over to the street real fast. And
Mm-hmm.
it's off-putting like crazy. And so like as the audience we're feeling like something's kind of, I don't know, with this guy.
Yeah.
Um but I'm not sure I ever saw this movie without knowing that Norman was his mother.
Oh.
Like I don't think I ever saw it clean because like I don't know, it's just a thing you knew, you know, it's just in like
Mm.
in the zeitgeist. And somehow I had seen, I don't know, like Psycho 4 or something on
Oh
TV.
no.
Yeah, I you know, who knows? You just see these movies. And so this is how I ended up spoiling Psycho for somebody.
Oh no.
Um because I don't know that I had seen the original movie, but I'd seen all the other this Psycho 2 and 3 and 4, what I don't know. I just assumed I'd seen it. Maybe I had. I don't know. But we were at a it wasn't even a Blockbuster. This was in college at one of the many tiny little video rental stores that were around. So we were like, you know, just trying to find a movie. It might have even been, I don't know if they did this when you were there, but could you just like go to the library in your dorm and check out movies?
Um, well, I was right by Wells, so to go to the
Oh,
library in my dorm was stupid because Wells was right there. Like,
true.
you
Yeah.
know.
We mostly
Yeah,
would use
I
it
don't
for
know.
movies.
You could rent movies from the Wells though.
Yeah. Well, we would go in different, like if we were over at this dorm, we'd go check out there, see what movies they had, kind of thing. So it
Nice.
might have been there. But we were looking for a movie, and we picked up Psycho, and I was like, "Oh, that's really good. We should maybe watch that." Because like I've gone through lots and lots of phases of like, let's watch old movies. You know, like this is supposed to be great. You know, let's watch this
Yeah.
classic or whatever. Um, and so I was like, this is great. Like, and maybe I had seen it, maybe I didn't, but I knew it was great. Um, and she was like, "What is it about?" I'm like, "Oh, it's about this guy who dresses up like his mom and kills people." Like, I
Chad.
just fucking ruined the whole thing. Like, I killed it, and
You
it
were in
like we're watching.
college. You were a kid.
I know, but I mean, it was egregious spoiling. Like, it was it was really poor form, and I clearly didn't do it on purpose. I didn't realize that that was the reveal at the end of the movie because I just
Mm,
knew it already.
yeah.
I just thought this is what the movie's about. And yeah, I spoiled the shit out of that movie. So I was very conscious of that this week in trying to like, we should watch this for reasons I won't tell you. You know,
Because I am the one person who managed to go through life not knowing.
I love it. But isn't it better?
Oh, it's so much better. And again, like it's really impressive considering I have a theater degree. I took telecom classes. You know, images from this storyboard showed up in my telecom classes.
Sure.
Never got ruined. Which,
Images of the, I'm guessing, of the murder, the shower scene.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, So you said you found some stuff out about the shower scene. So I wanted to see if you wanted
Yes.
to tell this stuff. And this was from,
Absolutely.
because I also sent you like a link to a documentary that it looks like you'd already found and watched.
I watched the clip about making the shower scene. I didn't watch anything else with it because I it it was getting into overzealous territory, which I realized this week I need to be doing this level of research for every film.
It's
But
kind of
again,
fun.
this one just it is fun, and this one fascinated me more than other films for some reason, even though we've watched a lot of good stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just so thrilled that because going into this, I I assumed I was imagining not the worst, but close enough that like, she's getting murdered in the nude It's
Mm.
1959. How much of her is in this? And you know, just for people who may not know, may not feel like this is common knowledge, when you are doing a nude scene, especially on film, there should be someone with a robe to give you between cuts. And
Mm.
also, if they're not showing you like fully nude, you should have coverage over like, things that would be blackbarred, as we say.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
and considering it was 1959, I didn't think that that was going to be available. Maybe a robe. Anyway, great news, everyone. This is one of the first movies to have a nude double.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I was super thrilled to hear that. Um, Also, shout out to the. She called herself a set girl, but she's clearly more than that. She's uncredited as the costume designer. I think her name is Rita Riggs. And her and Janet Leigh we're trying to come up with like things to cover, keep her covered and like somewhat modest on set because
Mhm.
like I know people think that actors, oh, they love being naked. We don't. It's a we've made ourselves feel like we are okay with it so that we are not a problem and we keep getting hired. There's a
There
difference.
you go.
Yes. And so they came up with moleskin as a solution to
Mm.
like cut up and tape, which is still used today. Um,
Huh.
and I thought that was really cool and just again excited me to no end, knowing like Janet Leigh got to work with them and discuss with them. I mean, she didn't know she was going to be nude until they started shooting, which like, well, that sucks. Also is of the time.
Hmm.
She seems, from the interview, she seemed okay, so I'm not going to layer anything else on it. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
project. Um, they even had the water warm for her, which I thought was incredibly considerate.
Oh,
Um,
no kidding.
to the point where she was saying that it when she was in the uncomfortable position of leaning over the tub at the very end and her eyes are having to stay open, the steam was kind of a problem because
Mm.
it was making the moleskin start to slip off of her.
Oh.
And she was like, I could move and ruin the take and we have to do this all again, which they had already done it like
Hmm.
multiple times. She said, or I could risk the crew seeing things
Right.
and just get the take done. I'm going to risk the crew seeing things, which her prerogative,
Mhm.
like glad she at least thought of the crew. That's more than some people do nowadays.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so I just super fascinating and super
Yeah.
cool to think about. Like, there have been these discussions in the past, which is why I don't like when people think that all of this came out of Me Too. Like, it didn't. It's
Hmm.
been there. It's just it's recognized. It has a label.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that whole scene is so cool because I saw him say that like the only parts that are her face, head, shoulders, and hands. Anything else you
Oh,
see, yeah,
yeah.
anything else you see is the body double.
Yeah.
And obviously, like you never see the knife go into any flesh. You see a little bit of blood. Um, but this scene is one of the reasons he shot the movie in black and white because like he had done movies before this in color, like North by
Oh,
Northwest is
okay.
before this. It's in color. Um, but he thought that much red would be too gruesome for the audience. Um, and then
I thought about that.
he like that was before they even shot it. So he was like he was planning on doing. Yeah, he thought he was gonna do more blood, um, in black and white, but like he cut all of that stuff out and just kept what he did. Like it's real minimal, and it's like the the horror is in the cuts and how quickly the camera is moving and the close up and the slashing and the curtain comes down, and like all of and the water and the way that it's all put together, um, is what makes it so terrifying. You don't need the blood. You don't need a knife
No.
going into a body. It's better without it.
Something else that was mentioned about the shower scene was
Mhm.
they had a shot from above of her, bent over the tub, dead. And the
Yeah.
reason they ended up not using it was one, her lower half was revealed, and not like everything, but just the fact that it was seen at all would have been pretty
Hmm.
scandalous at the time. But then two, they were like, this is just too horrifying. Like, this is really
Right.
sad. So,
Hmm.
again, really cool. Again, just I love the thought that went into this. Um,
Hmm.
Even if it's not for all the reasons that I want it to be now, like I'm still glad that there was thought and
Yeah.
consideration. Yeah.
I was reading in that interview. He was apparently this is the first Hitchcock movie where he showed a brassiere,
Oh,
and
wow.
uh, yeah, and he was like, at the beginning of the movie, he would have rather they had both been topless because Truffaut said, because she's wearing the brassiere, it's only titillating for half the audience. Which I thought was because Sam's
That's
walking around
perfect.
shirtless. Yeah. Um, and but he was like, it would have been more natural for both of them to be topless because that's what people are like, you know?
This is why I get I'm just going to use my phrasing. This is why I get annoyed in postcoital scenes where the woman is still in a bra. Like, I'm sure
Or
some
with the
people do that.
blanket up to here.
I don't even mind the blanket. I mind the bra more than anything because I don't think that speaks to a truthful experience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Yeah, it never seems. It's one of those unacknowledged things. I'm like, I get if you don't want to be seen, but can we? I don't know. Let's do better. Let's have
Yeah.
like a strap down, something. Have it be askew. It's very lazy. It doesn't look like
Yeah.
anything has happened, and like,
Yeah.
at least there, I don't know, again, there was something about watching this movie. We've seen older stuff, but this movie in particular, I felt the scandal of seeing them in bed
Mm-hmm.
together, of her being in, a bra and slip. I was like, oh, things have happened
Yeah.
here, and I don't know if it's lust or if it's love.
But it's in the middle of the day. It's her whole lunch hour. It's like this is the only time she can get away to sleep with her lover. It
Right.
makes it illicit from the start. And because he starts out with the whole city and comes in on the window, and through the window, we're peeping. Like we're seeing something we're not supposed to be seeing.
Yes.
And like so he does that throughout the movie. Like he gives you that, and then the peeping through the um from the office into her hotel room, where he sees the good stuff that we don't get to see because they cut away. But clearly, she just got completely undressed. Um, so it's so much hinted at.
So, because we're basically in Adventures in Intimacy, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to continue if that's okay. Um, that first scene when they're together, I know, I know I would have found the answers if I had listened more, but I wanted to see if I could, because I couldn't tell at first. I was like, ooh, this seems like an illicit affair. How, is this lust? Is this love? And I wouldn't say immediately, but pretty quickly you can tell that it's not just people cheating on other people to be together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and again, it's in the words that they're saying to each other, but it's also in they're so caressing of each
Mm-hmm.
other. There's soft touches, there's a lot of aftercare, as they would say in the kink world. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, they're still close and cuddly, and like speaking close to
And
each other.
not for nothing, she's wearing white.
Yeah. Okay.
Like there's purity in this.
And I knew you had mentioned something about the underwear change, like the
Hmm.
color changing and change of character. I didn't expect it to be that quickly. Like a few scenes
Yeah.
later, when she's in just black, I was like, "Oh, what?
Hmm.
What did I
Yeah.
miss?"
She's committed a crime. She's no
Was it
longer.
laundry day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, she's. I mean, yeah, she's no longer like she's crossed the line. You know,
Yeah.
and this is something else that happens in this movie quite a bit. Um, you know what? Let's come back to her crossing the line when we get to what else time,
Okay.
because I don't know if you have more intimacy stuff.
I do. It's, it's light stuff, things like how to show forbidden love versus an affair. Because they're in love, I'm going to say it leans more towards like they're not allowed to be together. The fact that they feel they have to hide it because of his divorce and
Hmm.
she's a single woman
Right.
in 1959.
Yep.
Um
He probably noticed my wedding ring.
you know what I said to that? I was like, yeah, rings come off. Um Not
I just
endorsing
like.
anything. I'm just saying, like, you can have a ring on. Dudes don't care. I'm sorry, they
I
don't.
just. I just like that of the two ladies, she looked at Janet Leigh and said, "He's probably interested in her because of this."
You know what? I like that confidence. You,
I do too.
honey, have you consummated that marriage yet? Because the ponytail says no. Whew, I'm sorry, coming off judgy tonight. I don't mean to,
Yeah, judgy AF on ponytails.
but it's things like that. Again, I'm like, it just doesn't see a ponytail, especially in the 50s, implies
Yeah,
youth. It implies
sure.
someone's single.
Yeah.
It does, you look at Janet Leigh's hairstyle in this too. She's got that short modern girl hairstyle. What must that mean? Just these things matter. But that woman was in
Yeah.
one scene. Who knows what they were again trying to show the difference between the two, and maybe that your relationship status doesn't matter. Like you are who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um oh, I thought this was a great display of how sexual harassment is not always clear cut to other
Mm.
people. Because unfortunately, oh my God, I didn't want to go back and watch it for reasons. You said Sam Wainwright was in it, and I went, cool, I believe you, not rewatching that scene.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that it was super infuriating. It wasn't. It was just, oh, yep, this is harassment. This is what it looks like. Honestly, that should be the video they add in sexual harassment training to be like, you know, it can be as subtle as these moments where like he's he's leaning into her. He's
Hmm.
it's subtle stuff, and I know people are going to go, "Well, you can't lean into people." There are power dynamics. She's a
Hmm.
worker. He's a client.
Right.
He clearly feels like he can do whatever he wants because he throws out the number of I'm putting down $40,000. Blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah, 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 blah. I can buy happiness because he thinks that's going to win him
I
some
mean,
with her.
I think that it's also like the implication is that he thinks she might be for sale.
Yeah,
You know, like
just call me a whore.
this is from
Just
uh the you haven't seen The Jerk, but it's a you flash this kind of wad in front of some people and they'll kill you for it. Like it's that exact mood. Just like here's a big wad of cash. I dare you to have evil thoughts about it.
so rude. Ugh.
I know.
I want to leave that scene
Um
behind. People, if you need an example of subtleties in sexual harassment, there's your scene. I don't want to talk anymore about it. um, I was thinking too about how to, you know what? Actually, okay, I'll touch on this since I started it. How you
Okay.
like the intimacy of luring prey, you know?
Mhm.
Because there is an intimacy in like his tactics, you know? It's he's being friendly. He's he feeds her. He's, nourishing, taking care of her. And then he's being quirky. Like, how do you draw someone in and not freak them out when your true self shows up?
That's okay. So this is that last sentence is not where I thought you were going with that because like just because I don't think he's trying to lure her in.
Oh, okay.
Like he's not planning on killing her, right?
Okay.
Like ever. Because that's not Norman, that's the mother, right? It and but like the thing with the Norman mother relationship is that, and the doctor at the end who fucking explains the shit out of everything. Um
Yeah.
is like he's like Norman is jealous of his mother being with a man, so he thinks that his mother is jealous and judgy of him for looking at other women. And so when he does do that, when he takes down the thing and he peeps at her and he finds himself attracted to her, that's when she has to die. Because he's had this physical reaction that he knows he's not supposed to have. And because he's not supposed to have it, his mother must take care of it for him. And so it's like that he decides to kill her.
Okay. I agree with that. I take contention with him saying, or with the idea that he thinks his mother would kill these women or kill these people because his mother hasn't killed anyone. He has.
But he doesn't know that because he's got this split personality. When she takes over, it's like he's not there.
Got it. Okay. See,
Yeah. So he comes to, finds this dead woman, and is like, oh my God, what did my mom do?
okay. I don't think I got that.
Okay. Yeah.
I okay. Yeah. I just didn't get that. But
Yeah. And because he's covering up for her.
got it.
Like, he cleans the bathroom to protect his mother. He buries the car to protect his mother. Because he doesn't know that he is her.
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, the doctor can explain it to you some more if you would like.
No, we'll get to that and what else. The
Yeah.
last thing I want to bring up is just because I don't think I've really talked about it before, or at least, but you know, people think that ICs or anything are there just for the actors, but really they're there for everyone who's going to be there. And granted,
Mm,
something like this, and I believe they mentioned it, it would be a closed set, which means minimal amount of people as possible,
mhm.
because it's sensitive, material happening, sensitive subject
Right.
matter. But that doesn't mean people aren't going to be nearby, like in another room nearby, walking down the hallway. You have to you have to warn people around or on set what's going to happen and what's going to be seen, because if you think about anywhere at work, anywhere you live, and suddenly you hear people screaming,
Right.
that's going to be really alarming. Or
Right.
like if you're the crew above or somewhere at some distance from her and you can't really tell and you just see this stuff happening, it can be pretty alarming. Like, yes, they're acting it, but there's also a worry that maybe something, like, wait, is she really okay? And so, like,
Right.
that's why it's important to communicate with everyone around so that they know what's happening and that they know when it's done. I,
Hmm.
I'm done. And that's where you give like a little cue, like, "Hey, I'm good." And again, I'm projecting now into like why this is important today. Yeah, um, yeah, projecting on why that's important today, because I think a lot of people, even people in the field, don't recognize that everyone's comfort and boundaries are important in this work.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. Um, you said something about um, well, there's no the transitions are weird because like I want to talk about stuff, but we've got drop forest. Um, so the um the only music that matters in this is the score and the like at the knife in the shower, like without that music, that scene is about 40% effective.
Yeah.
But you put that in it, and it is so over the top, nerve wracking, and like suspenseful and horrifying that you're just it is the perfect marriage of that kind of sound work with what's going on visually. And I was reading a thing that Hitchcock basically paid the composer double because he was like, it's so important for like what he delivered was so important to this movie that he paid him twice his rate. So, which I think is
I
really
mean, it
cool.
makes a difference. We've talked so much about soundtracks recently, and
Hmm?
this one is no different. And again, other than that, I obviously I had heard that. That is referenced so much in
Yeah.
pop culture.
Hmm.
Um, but the music that's used, I think, in the opening credits, kind of,
Yeah.
and when she's driving, I think the doo 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 doo, something like that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, I swear I've heard that, but I don't know from where. So it
Right.
sounded familiar to me, and it was, but yeah, you get from the very beginning, like, oh, this is going to be nerve wracking.
Hmm. And they, like that, the that whole part, um, that's where the Jaws soundtrack comes from. Like it's very inspired by that kind of musical movement. And so yeah, you've heard it in places where you didn't think you heard it. You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's so good, and also like the soundscape at the end. Like I've seen this movie probably a dozen times at this point in my life. I've seen it a lot. Not as much as like The Big Lebowski or whatever, because things are important. Um, but the reveal at the end where the the corpse swings around and you see her face, and then it's silly, but she hits the light bulb and it starts to swing and the shadows move back and forth, and then they cut to the door and he's coming in, and it's like that reveal is so good at like it it still like brings up the hackles even though all of those beats are coming, and even though the Norman Bates face is so weird when he's like
The one time I didn't, it was the one
yeah,
time I
it's
didn't
weird.
believe him. I,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you know what? Everyone has a rough moment as an actor. There's, but that one,
Yeah,
I don't know when he was directed there. I don't know. It didn't work for me. It was odd. Maybe
it
he
does
didn't
feel
know
weird.
the lighting. Maybe he didn't know what the lighting was going to be. Again, it's a choice, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it worked for some people. It clearly worked enough for it to be included. But
Yeah,
yeah, I still screamed in that scene.
yeah, yeah, it's so good, and the music of it too, like it's very jarring. The whole fucking thing is so great. um yeah, he does so many things with like like you were saying, like the things that were thought out.
Yeah.
um the intentionality in all of the stuff he did, and this might as well just be what else time.
Okay.
um like with the like something as simple as the vertical house and the horizontal motel, like it makes the house menacing, because
Hmm.
if this house is like a ranch, in like like a mid-century ranch house,
Yeah.
that's not scary. But this thing over this it's very frightening, and it's dark and looming. And I was reading some of the stuff he was talking about with Arbogast murder
Mm-hmm.
and carrying mother down the stairs, um the way he decided to shoot those things, like he's like, we had a cut of Arbogast going up the stairs where it was like you cut here and then you cut down to his feet walking between the the banisters, and he's like, and I was like, oh, this is terrible, because this is how you would show it if he was the bad guy.
Clever.
Like that makes him look like you should be suspicious of him. So they do it in one shot, and and he's like, and so I just let it go all the way up the stairs, and I needed the camera to be up high, because if it was down low, it would have you would have noticed that I was trying to hide her face.
Yeah.
But if the camera is way up here, one, it's in a voyeuristic position, which we've been in this movie a few times. Two, it's in a bird's eye position, which
Mm.
the owls and the stuffed animals and all of that. Um, and it obscures her face without making it look like you're trying to obscure her face. Plus, it shows the depth of field for how far he's going to fall,
Yeah.
so that it sets up the way he wanted to do that falling shot, which is, um, the way they did it is he put the camera on like a track without anybody in it and shot the stairway,
Yeah.
and then he shot the actor on a chair and doing this shit, and the
That's fair.
background moved up. But it was a totally revolutionary way to do something like that.
Sure.
Like,
I
yeah,
I don't want to knock it because I love ingenuity. Uh, you know, yeah, I'm not knocking it. It looks
yeah,
away, but again, that's really cool for what they did or were able to do at the time. That's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And then when he did the Norman carrying the mother out thing, he was like, I didn't want to make a cut to that camera angle up there, because again, still trying to hide what's really happening.
Yeah.
So he's like, I take the camera up the stairs in one shot, and when Norman goes in the room, I fly the camera up so that it's looking down at us.
It was so
And
unique.
because if I had come up and then cut, the audience would have noticed the cut. But this way, we get to watch. We're
Yeah.
voyeurs again, and it's a one fluid motion, and you've hidden the thing. You've hidden that it's him carrying a corpse down the stairs. Um, but the other thing I thought that he did that was so cool that I don't know that I'd noticed before is how often he uses mirrors in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Like the whole scene at the beginning, not at the beginning, but when Norman and Marion are talking, like in the lobby, and then walking into the room, like they're both shown against the mirror, so you can see him and him. Or when
Mm.
she's standing by the door, you see her and then her reflection back in the door.
Oh,
It's constant. There's so many times when you can see double of the person that's talking. A lot when it's Norman.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, so he's showing you, even he's going through all of this trouble to misdirect you at every turn, but he's also showing you, this guy's stuffing things. This guy is like, he's kind of menacing, like these birds. There's a mirroring. He's doubled, and so is Marion, because she went from white underwear to black underwear. She's two people right now.
I
And so he keeps showing you that throughout the movie. It's really cool.
I just realized because I noticed in the house there were a plethora of cherubs.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, his thing is birds.
Right.
And I'm wondering now too, like cherubs, have an angelic feel. It's making the mother look like this,
Uh
religious
huh.
zealot. Um, and then the birds making him, I don't know, look unique, look away. But like, it's also, if you look at it from the end, like knowing what we know, it kind of implies that he was really the bad one all along, like really the villain. I don't know. I'm just
Sure, because he killed his mom and her lover.
Yeah, it's just it's
You know?
the cherubs thing really caught me off guard. I was like, this is a lot. Like this means
Mhm.
something. I don't know. That's the thing too with Hitchcock. Like some people you watch their work and you're like, I know this means something.
Right, right, right. Yeah, it's the Coen Brothers thing for me.
Yeah.
Like
Um,
they're getting here. I just got to sit and think about what it is. So
yeah.
wait, was this your first Hitchcock?
Yes, it was.
That's fucking crazy.
I know. I'm gonna fix it.
Wow. Well, yeah. There's I mean, I haven't seen all of his stuff, but I've seen all the stuff you have to have seen. Um and a whole bunch of the stuff that's like, "Oh, that's also a thing." You know?
Again, just I it's I was kept not necessarily just kept. I mean, I did not grow up in a family who liked scary things in the slightest. They like some thrillers.
Mhm.
And then it is kind of fascinating looking back on like who I've dated and none of them like of all the other things they had me watch, they said,
Right.
"Nah, we'll spare her Hitchcock." And I'm like, I would have much rather have watched a Hitchcock movie or two than
So you're saying you never dated anyone who spoiled Psycho for you in a dorm library?
which is wild, but also I think just screams to how sheltered and how few people talk to me about movies or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's you know what? We all live in the cages we create.
There you go. And sometimes you step into one of your own making. Um,
We brought up
okay.
the oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, no. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to bring up the doctor because you don't seem to like his final monologue.
I don't, and I don't think anybody does, to be honest with you.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
like I was reading Roger Ebert's review, which was I don't know when he wrote it, but like not when the movie came out. Um, and he was like, it's just clunky. It's just this like exposition dump at the end of the movie that overly explains what happens and kind of like is like if you cut that monologue, if you cut that whole big fucking monologue down from 5 minutes to like 3 lines, and then you cut to the I won't even hurt a fly, and the more doubling when they show his face, and then through it you see her skull, and then it's the shot fades to like that. If you did that and just got rid of most of that extra explanation, this is probably a perfect movie. But what's funny is a buddy of mine, right now as we're recording this, Indiana is playing a basketball game against Illinois, that I'm
Oh,
going to watch. And I'm fully expecting to be in a bad mood after it's over. It's the way
oh,
this year's going. But a buddy of mine has a kid who goes to Illinois. So he sent me a picture of his kid like in the stands in Illinois. I think they're doing a watch in the building, and I was like, "Oh, I think Eddie's gonna have a better night than I am tonight." I was like, "But I'm watching Psycho, or I'm recording a podcast on Psycho," and he said, and that was all I said. And I'm gonna tell you what he said. Love
oh.
Psycho, minus that ending where the detective had to painfully explain to the audience what that he was dressing like a woman. Like without
But it's
prompting,
19.
that's his first thing.
That's so funny. That did not bother me. Like
Mm,
I I kind of found it fascinating. I
mm-hmm.
part of me I'm hesitant to say this, but you got to throw things up the wall and see what sticks. Part of me felt like it was progressive of them because
Mm.
you have the cops at one point be like, so he's a transvestite, and he goes, not necessarily, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That like it was um the way he was explaining it was very modern for 1961. Um,
yeah,
but narratively, it's just this weight that sits there, and I understand why you do it because I feel like the audience I think he didn't trust the audience to get it without an
Yeah,
explanation.
I can
Because,
feel that.
yeah, because in 1961, this is not a thing people are like familiar with. Um, but I do think that you watch this movie today, you cut most of that out, and the movie's better.
I wonder too, it kind of, there I think it was Clue we talked about, does anyone even really care who committed it? We want to know how. Um
Right. It needs to make sense. Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like this is one of those situations where, because it is a mystery in a way, um
Mm-hmm.
if this was supposed to be that explanation moment that we get from the detective, or
Right.
some other character. So yeah, i I get it. As someone who is constantly needing to be understood, I get where Hitchcock was coming from here, and it
Yeah.
can bug me. But I could also, I think it would be very interesting to see, like, I don't know if there was a play version, or I don't want there to be a remake of it, but for them to cut out some of it would be very interesting.
Well, they did the exact fucking opposite. You know that in like 1999, Gus Van Sant did a remake of Psycho starring Vince Vaughn.
Mm.
And not only did a remake, shot for shot,
Oh.
it's except it's in color. And it's
Oh.
Vince Vaughn and Anne Heche.
I don't know who that is.
Anne Heche, she died recently. She was with Ellen for a while, like when Ellen first came out.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and then she had a whole lot of psychological and substance issues.
Well,
So yeah, Anne
sorry,
Heche.
Anish.
Um, yeah, right. Um, but they did the opposite of make little trims. They did it exactly the same, which is like, I don't even know why you do that. And I think everyone at the time was like, I don't know why you do that. Like, if you're going to remake something, bring a different eye to it. Like, do something interesting with it. It can't be a note for note copy, because the first guy did that, and it was what he did is great.
Yeah.
Are you going to make it like the best you can do if you go shot for shot is as great, you know? And even that's
Yeah.
going to be a little less because he thought of it and you just copied it. It's a real weird move. And I've never seen it, but I know that that's what they did.
I think the doctor's monologue, the one thing I find worrisome about it is, in the similar vein of needing things to be understood, I worry about people, and you can't control this either way, but I worry about people seeing this and gleaning from this negative stereotypes about, mental health or mental illness, as it were, because he is
Right.
mentally ill. And then also, again, it's not about him being a transvestite or gender
No.
expression. So, but that's what I'm worried about. That people would like then make more of it, and it's like, no,
Sure.
that's not the point here. He says it explicitly. That's not the point.
Right.
And he even gives a definition. I was like, oh my
Right.
god, this is great. But people are
Yeah. Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
ruin this. Like they ruin everything. Ugh.
But you know what? This movie is 64 years old now. I think we're okay. I don't
Yeah,
think it
this
ruined
isn't the
anything.
thing people. I'll just say it. This isn't the thing Republicans are abusing.
No, no, everyone's fine with Psycho. We get it. We know it. I mean, it's the like Norman's house and the Bates Motel. Like there's still stops on the Universal tour. Like,
Shit.
yeah, the house is there on the tour because it was on the back lot when they've moved it to be sort of part of the tour. But you pass it.
Is
Like,
it
it's
still
really
there?
cool. Uh, I mean, I don't think Universal has been hit by the fires.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Um, So, but yeah, no, that house is on the Universal lot. So, and it's
Wow.
cool to get to see it. You know, yeah, it's right. I think it's right after where Jaws pops out of the water,
Oh, sweet.
um, which is also pretty cool. So, all
Wait,
right, is
Bruce?
this any? Yeah, Bruce, exactly. Is Is this anyone's defining role? The answer is yes.
Yes. I listen. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I know Janet Leigh first and foremost from Bye Bye Birdie, but I would also say that this is probably her defining role.
Yeah, I mean, that scene is so iconic. And then when her daughter goes into horror movies, it's like, well, that's perfect, you know. Um,
Yeah.
it's also Tony Perkins' defining role. He was Norman Bates for the rest of his life. Like, he was so good at this. And they did do some sequels.
I
Um,
saw.
I remember thinking Psycho 4 was pretty good, but I was also maybe like 12. So
I'm not trusting
I don't
that.
I don't know if it's any good or not. I'm certain that none of them are as good as this. Like, they're just, they're not
It
gonna be.
couldn't be.
No, because this thing is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I think I think it was Hitchcock's most successful movie, like box office wise. Like, I think it really, really performed. Um, I don't know if it's his best movie, but it's really fucking close.
Hmm.
Like, I think there's a real strong case to be made for Vertigo.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
People love Vertigo. Rear Window, which I've seen like probably as many times as I've seen this, is amazing as well. Um, the Birds has one of the scariest scenes I've ever seen in my life in it.
I
For
don't want to
people
do that
who,
one.
oh, I think you can handle it. But for people who have seen it, that scene where she's on the park bench and the playground equipment is behind her. Oh,
I
Leslie, the way this thing works, like, the way this scene works is so fucking great. She sits down on a park bench, and behind her is like some playground equipment, and uh, you like it cuts, and like a bird comes and lands on it, and it's behind, and it cuts to the sky, and you see a few more birds around, whatever, and then it cuts to her, and she's doing stuff, and then it cuts back to the thing, and there's like 6 birds there, and it cuts back to her, and it's doing other stuff, and all of a sudden it cuts back, and there's like 50 birds behind her, and it's fucking terrifying. It's Hitchcock directing the audience again, and it's perfect.
Jeff, I live in New York. I can't watch that movie yet. I live with that right now
Yeah.
because a pigeon starts walking towards me and I
Uh-oh.
or if sometimes they like to fake out dive bomb you and I'm just like,
Oh, sure.
and I know it's our fault they're here, but
Yeah.
it's not
But
my
pigeons,
fault.
no, pigeons suck. I hate pigeons. Pigeons are no good.
I hate them
Um,
too. Oh my god. I hate
yeah.
them so much. I hate them so much.
Feathers on the side of my face. Yeah. Um, all right, what is this the EST of for you?
This might be the best thriller.
It's really up there.
I'll say that. I'm going to say for me, this might be the best thriller so far that
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is really good.
Um, it's really good. I'm glad you liked it. I really am.
Well,
I thought you would,
yeah.
but
I've been super I mean, again, the research alone should tell you like I've just been fascinated by this.
mhm.
I was super excited to talk about it tonight. And yeah, no, I really liked it. And I'm excited to watch more
Awesome.
Hitchcock.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to do that too, because Hitchcock has some great stuff. Uh, this is like the twistiest movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to me the number of ways that the people in the movie and the audience are wrong about what's going on. Like, just at every turn, we're wrong.
Yeah.
And it is masterfully done. Like, this movie is wonderful. And I was super excited to get to watch it again. So I think that once again we have proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling.
Damn.
I know, even Psycho.
Even Psycho.
It's pretty cool. So join us next week Cheesemeisters, when on Wednesday we will be watching season 3, episode 23, Duke's Bad Boy. Naughty, naughty Duke's Bad Boy. Um, I don't know what we're gonna watch for this. We got to figure something out. Maybe something about gambling. We might have to find a movie about gambling. Um,
The
Want to
Sting?
watch Rounders?
No.
Well, so the Sting's only kind of about. Have you ever seen the Sting?
Yes, but I don't remember anything about it, and I want to watch it
Oh,
again.
I I love the Sting. That the Sting is like a top 10 movie for me all time. It's really
My
fucking
mom
good.
loves it too.
So does mine. Um, it's not it's more about a con than it is about gambling though.
Well, my only other suggestion, I said this I think weeks ago to you. And again, this also isn't about gambling. However, in Funny Girl,
Mm.
Fanny Bryce marries Nikki Onstein, famed gambler,
Mm.
and it does become a subplot.
Hmm.
So that
Okay.
is something to think about.
Okay. Let's think about it because like I feel like I could very easily talk myself into the Sting because the Sting is fucking awesome. Plus it's got your boy in it. And anytime we can just spend some time with Leslie being shoved up against a bathroom wall by 60-year-old Paul Newman, it is so choice. So,
Yes, it is. And I believe he has a mustache in that one, so we're halfway to peak Newman.
what are you talking? I was just starting to do good. Um, yeah, it's man, this thing is so fucking good. But I do want to give myself the chance to think about a movie that's more directly related to gambling and see if I can come up with something that is equally compelling. So
Let's
it
discuss
might
off
be the
air.
Sting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll discuss it off air. But so next week, Cheesemeisters is a big old gambling mystery. I don't even know. Oh, you know what? You know what we should definitely shouldn't watch National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation.
No. Oh my God.
Definitely not gonna watch that. Um, so rest easy, Cheesemeisters. That ain't gonna happen. Uh, so I don't know. We'll figure it out, but it'll be something awesome, I'm sure. So until then, Cheesemeisters. Cheers.
Cheers.